So bear in mind I was 5 years old, so he was playing to his audience, right? There's a boy called Johnny Smells, and Johnny Smells goes to school on his first day, and the teacher takes him aside and says, look, with a name like that, you're going to get picked on. I suggest you go home and ask your parents if you can change your name. So next day he goes back to school, and the teacher said, well, did you change your name? And Johnny says, yes. He says, what is it now? He said, Benny Smells.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and today I am here with Adam Bloom, who is a comedian and author. He is over on the other side of the pond, as they say, in the UK. And I'm just super excited for this conversation. He was recommended to me by Sam Dema, who we had on the podcast not too long ago. And Sam just raved about you. And then I, in the time leading up to this interview, I got your book, Finding Your Comedic Genius or Comic Genius. And I'm just very excited. Thank you for taking the time to come out today, Adam.
No, thank you for having me. It's 9:30, so this is my prime time now because I'm an evening person. So this is it's morning there, isn't it?
It is. It's 1:30. It's afternoon.
Okay.
So you're 8 hours ahead of us.
It's happening in the future, don't I?
Yeah. How's it going over there?
I'll tell you what happened.
Do I have something to look forward to this evening?
I hate to say the news. Is that a spoiler? Awesome. Is that a spoiler?
Yeah. Tell me, I know that when we chatted before this, like we were just planning this conversation, a couple of things jumped out at me that I'm like, I want to hear more about this, but you wrote this book, only a year ago. It's like just over a year old of being published. I think you said you started the book 2 years ago ish, but I would love to know, like, before we dive into that, like, what's the context for who you are, how long you've been doing comedy, and then why write a book about, finding your genius at this stage and what inspired it and all that.
So, okay, there's a few things. So first of all, I've got a friend called Ailey Lloyd, who's a magician, and he kept saying to me, you're a walking book. You're always talking theories and ideas, put it down in writing. And I made excuses. And I hope people listening to this who are making excuses take heed, because when you make excuses, it's often because you're scared of failure or scared of commitment. And I was making excuses like, it's a niche topic. Well, Amazon's global. So you can have a niche topic, but when people search on Amazon, you can dislike Amazon. You can think, what they're doing, whatever. But my book in a bookshop would have just sat there because it's a niche subject. But when people type in stand-up comedy book, they get 30 books. But mine is the only one, and I've done extensive research here, mine is the only book ever written on stand-up comedy that's advanced for comedians who already do it for a living to get better at doing it. And that's a very niche subject because everyone wants to be a comedian. They read a book and they never get round to it. Of course, some of them do. But my point is, 1 million people read a book on how to do comedy and maybe 100,000 will have a go, and then a few thousand end up doing it. But I wrote a book for people who do it. But globally, there are a lot of them. I mean, part-time and full-time combined, there are a lot of them. So I gave in to my excuses as well. Let's see what happens. And globally, it's doing it. Thank God it's doing well.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the, so I'm not a comedian. I like telling jokes, and I love public speaking. And one of the things that I took away was the boom mic moment.
Okay.
So before I want you to give your explanation of the boom mic moment, and then I'll give for the people listening, I'll give you the example of how I actually applied this to a talk already. It wasn't a funny talk, but it was a great analogy. So what is the boom mic moment?
So boom mic moment can come in subtle forms, but in its most blatant form, a comedian will tell you a really heartfelt story, and then halfway through the story, they'll say, I did this the other night. I told this story the other night, and someone in the audience said this, and I said this, and they share this wonderful moment that happened at another show. But for me, that's like a boom mic appearing in the film, because I was lost in your story, and I didn't need to know you told it every night for the last 10 days. I'm in the moment with you. And when the boom mic appears in the film, you go, it's acting. You know it's acting, it's a film. But you're so lost in the moment, you don't want to see a boom mic in a film, because then you've got the crew around you. If you're watching Jaws and the shark's head come up and you see Steven Spielberg with a clipboard, then it's not a real shark anymore. You know it's not a real shark, but you're suspending your disbelief. You get lost in the moment. The reason films work is because our imaginations give ourselves to the film and we believe it. That's why we cry. That's why we go like that. we don't think of them as actors because they're such good actors. We think of them as people in the film. And a boom mic ruins that. No matter how good the film is, if a boom mic appears, it's ruined. That moment you go, it's acting.
Yeah.
I've been tricked. So when a comedian says,
Yeah. And I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I was giving we do automation for painting companies, very random niche thing. Talk about niche. The internet, man, is like this massive unlock for the ability for people to have these super particular niche topics that are relevant to like 100 people in the world. And it actually could be like a thing now. Whereas like you're saying 20, 30, 40 years ago, good luck getting anyone to find it. And now because of the internet, it opens it up. But with that in mind, I'm giving this talk to, I've given it a bunch of times to painting contractors about automating their business. And I decided to basically scrap the standard, like, here's what you need to do, here's our process. And I just told a heartfelt story about my own health journey and just like wanting to take it super seriously and get on this diet and exercise and all this stuff. And it was the most effective talk I've ever given. And we had more leads after that than we typically do from, just us talking shop basically. But the thing that was really impactful was a couple days later, I gave the talk again. And the first time I gave it, it actually was the first, like I had never shared some of this stuff before.
Right.
And I was right at this point in your book. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm about to do, because I was planning on saying, hey, like for whatever reason, I felt like it was necessary to tell the second audience that like, hey, I've shared this one other time before. But then I was like, no, I'm giving a talk. I'm just going to deliver it the exact same way I did the first time and say, hey, I want to let you in on just like some of the stuff that I'm going through and whatever, instead of being like, so I should, you're the second time I've told this. And I had never thought of it until you said that, or that story of like, oh yeah, like why does, if I'm listening to a speaker, especially like really well-known speakers, Tony Robbins or whatever, it's like, you think that he goes and he hasn't said the same thing he's saying to you to 100 other audiences? Like, of course he has. He's perfected it and he delivers that impact every time. So I love that.
That's the thing is with the boom mic moments can be very, very subtle. I watched someone the other day do a really good routine, and she mentioned a woman's product, and she said, I should be getting commission by now. Now, by now means the amount of times I've said it is thousands of tens of thousands of people. So now I've been committed. So I said, why don't you say, I should be getting commission for this? Because that means I'm saying it to you. I should be paid to say it to you. But by now means I've said this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. It's a giveaway. It's a telltale. And you might go, like people listening might go, oh, you're overthinking it. We take that in. We're taking that in. That's a tiny little boom mic moment, but it's still like, oh, by now, okay, this is your act. This is another night in your act. You know, when like you say, when you watch a crafted performance, my favorite comedian died 2001, 2021, Sean Locke. I saw his show in 2005, the best hour I've ever sit through. I didn't once think, this was on the 20th night of a 30-day run, I didn't once think he'd said this before. I just enjoyed it.
Yep. No, totally. And that's the thing that I think is, like you're saying, this book is very, I can see why, if this is the type, like this is an embodiment of you, your friend who said you got to write a book. When you dive into this, it's like the level, it was very exciting to me because I feel like I have thought and felt like I want to write a book on automating painting companies because there's like, I know so much about this. I could talk about it for hours. It's boring to you and 99% of the population, but to the painters that actually own a painting company that care, it's like I would be writing a book that's at this level of detail,
right,
for like
do it.
Data types and structure and all that stuff. And I thought it was cool.
And for the rest of us, it's like watching paint dry. You don't say that phrase. Do you not say that phrase over there?
But
you say that phrase?
Yeah. No, we do.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just it's like super painfully slow and boring.
But I think I would watch anybody passionate and knowledgeable talk about any subject. Like if I watched a plumber loving how a certain design works as a pipe, as long as I understood it all, I'd be fascinated. Like there are people who just like comedy who read the book because they just want to know behind the scenes. But admittedly, I don't like plumbing. But the point is, if somebody is passionate talking, I'm engaged.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if they're even if
No, I
they
think that's
have a religious belief I don't agree with, I'm prepared to listen to anyone from any religious belief explain why their book is the best one.
yeah. I was going to say I like the examples of when you would put in like here's some different versions of and I think this was an example that you and I highlighted a couple things. An example that you told of basically trying to bring up the fact that you were going through a divorce, and you said you went through the different ways of how you can um, different styles to introduce things, to talk about sensitive subjects or whatever. And I just feel like the again, I love comedy. I watch like Netflix comedy specials all the time, and reading this is making me think like, okay, this is actually something we talked about before. The idea of what is the thing that you are most afraid of. Remember this, and when I talked to you about this before,
Yep.
what would you say what's the thing that you fear the most?
Filling in forms incorrectly.
Filling in forms. Tell me more.
Landing in a foreign country, ticking X on the wrong box and doing 10 years in prison.
So
I,
tell me, why is
I,
that?
I recently had my car stolen only last week, 6 days ago, and I had to fill in a form, and I used Tipex, you call it whiteout, 4 times. 4 times. But I'm writing the chassis number of my car, got one wrong. I'm writing my driving license, got one wrong. I wrote a date, and I put 2024 because we're in 2024. It's just 2024. Oh no, it's 2022. So I live in like when someone's receiving a form, they've got a pile that big. They go, yeah, tick, yeah, but I'm like, the world's against me. They're looking for a mistake. I'm going to get. In fact, comedian friend of mine, Ed Byrne, who's a well-known comedian over here, he filled a form in wrong. About to do a tour of the States with Just for Laughs, the comedy festival in Montreal. He made a mistake, and his whole tour was cancelled. So it can happen.
Wow. So the stakes are higher when you're a comedian, I guess,
I mean,
when you're going on tour.
but for me, it's any form. Any form. I'm scared to get a loyalty card wrong in a cafe.
So because I want you to answer this again if there's another fear similar to what I'm going to share, but it's funny because when I think of like what am I most afraid of, there's obviously like big existential things, but the reality is the thing that like makes me squirm thinking about is stand-up comedy and karaoke at a bar. Those are the two things that's like,
Just
you know,
go on.
so, but what the reason I say that is because this coach that I've had told me that two things are really interesting: the things that piss you off in the world and the things that you're afraid of in the world. Because there's a million things that I could be afraid of and a million things that I could get upset about. I could be like, oh my gosh, it's 70 degrees. That's irritating, right? Or like, the stupid grass is the wrong color. Like whatever, I could be so upset about any number of things. Or I could be worried about bears or a volcano erupting or whatever, or my wife leaving me, whatever the thing is. There could be very specific, like everyone has something that comes to mind. And this coach that I had said, it's basically just a mirror. It's a reflection back on you. And there's some reason, like you have an imperfection or a flaw or a calling or feeling driven to go do something. And that's why it's a fear for you.
Either
So
that,
basically
either
his
that, or your wife
suggestion
left you
is,
for a bear.
what's that?
I said either that, or your wife left you for a bear.
Exactly. Yes. So but yeah, basically the thing that I'm motivated by is when you start to identify what are the things that you're afraid of, I would suggest that there's actually a very good chance that you need to lean into that fear because there's something for you on the other side of it. And it wouldn't even come to your conscious mind if there wasn't a reason you should go do that, if that makes sense.
Okay. I don't think there's a thing I'm scared of. It's more situations. I'm scared of looking back at this stage in my life because I'm always looking about what I did wrong. but we're so busy thinking about what we did wrong. We're not looking about what we're going to be making mistakes now. So like in 10 years time, I go, oh my God, 2024, I did that wrong, that wrong, that wrong, that wrong. But I was so busy living in regret of the things I did wrong. I wasn't realizing what I was, we're paving our paths for the future permanently, aren't we? Everything we're doing. So one of my fears is looking back at now and going, oh my God, I did that wrong, that wrong, that wrong. And I was so busy worrying about what I did wrong in the past. I wasn't thinking about the present. That's one of my fears. But that's, I can't go and change, you're bear, you can go out and become a bear trader in the circus, and you can get rid of that one, or go and sleep on a volcano for 2 days. But I don't know how I'm going to deal with my one. I can't go into the past, and I can fill in forms all day.
Is that, I guess I would say for yours, isn't that to me, I'm like, is there a calling that you have to living more intentionally or being more present in the current?
Oh yeah, being more present.
Basically is the solution.
Yeah, but that's sure. That's that's kind of go to some Buddhist classes and talk to some people who are very about the now, the living in the moment. Yeah. But
because I was going to say the fear and again, I'm not analyzing this, but I'd say the fear of you made mistakes, that's regret. You're afraid of not taking full advantage of what's in front of you, right? Or making the wrong choice.
Or just, yes, or focusing so much on mistakes that I'm forgetting that I'm making them now. There's a phrase I heard that was wonderful. Time spent thinking about wasted time is more time wasted. Isn't that great?
Yep. Yeah.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it for too long.
I know. I'm just like, yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know if you've heard the story that, or another phrase that 99% of the stuff we worry about never happens.
Oh God Almighty!
And you're just wasting energy that could be directed towards creative energy, and it's just fearful stuff. And it's like, if there was a way to block out all of that, then you'd have so much more dedicated memory and brain power to put towards something productive.
Yeah, but we also need to survive, and by worrying is part of surviving, isn't it? You worry there's a bear behind the tree, so you check behind the tree, or you could go, there's probably isn't a bear behind the tree, and you get eaten. So it is a technique. So you can be philosophical about it and go, yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, this is why people drink alcohol. I gave up drinking 13 days ago, and when my car got stolen, I went, let's have a drink. I went, oh no, I don't do that. I don't drink. But a glass of wine. I do 4 or 5 hour drives in a night to and from a show or two shows. I come home, and the first thing I do is have a nice whiskey and an orange juice, and it just settles me like that. But I can't do that now. So when my car got stolen, I went, right, I've just got to deal with this. I can't do any, that kind of escapism that drinking does, or whatever, So I'm going into sort of meditation now. But yeah, there's nothing I can do. My car, I can't get my car back. Only the police can get my car back. So I just have to go, there's nothing I can do. Yeah. So there's a good example. Nothing I can do. So don't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about, so with the book in particular, you've been a comedian. Basically, I think in the book you said that your dad told a joke, the first joke that you ever heard, correct? And that was the beginning of it for you?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years old, when I screamed. And he went, that's called the punchline. And I was like, wow, you're hitting someone with words and it makes them feel good. What a wonderful thing. Just a boom. Because that's what it is. Bang. When you get that proper rocking back moment, you've been punched. And I just remember thinking, I'd never heard the word punchline before. So I was like, I get it. It's a punch line. It's a line that punches you. What a wonderful word.
What was the joke?
So bear in mind, I was 5 years old. So he was playing to his audience, right? There's a boy called Johnny Smells. And Johnny Smells goes to school on his first day. And the teacher takes him aside and says, look, with a name like that, you're going to get picked on. I suggest you go home and ask your parents if you can change your name. So next day he goes back to school. And the teacher said, well, did you change your name? And Johnny says, yes. He says, what is it now? He said, Benny Smells. I was five, right?
Excellent. I love it.
The idea that you would change your first name and still go to the next school as Smells. I screamed, and it was his parents that did it.
I'm gonna share that. I'm gonna share that with my kids tonight, and we'll see what they say.
They'll love it. So here's the thing: I get comedians say to me they told it to their kids, and the kids loved it. That joke's 50,
Yeah.
48 years old. It's died off, and this book's making it come back again. It's a beautiful joke, but I screamed that this kid would call himself Benny Smells. I screamed.
That's good. So yeah, you have been a comedian since you're 5, or like that was, enlightened, like, oh, this is something I want to do. You then have done comedy for years and done ghost writing for people. 30.
30 years. I've been a full-time comedian for 29 years.
Okay. And so you've done
Yeah,
ghost
I've
writing,
got
stand up, like just gigs yourself. What was the like leading up to, okay, I'm going to do this? Because that's another thing I'm fascinated by in life is what is the thing that gets people to actually take action? And what's the takeaway from your decision to, like, you know what, this is happening. I'm sitting down, I'm starting, and this is going to happen.
So it was partly because I hit a low. I was 22 years old. I was a cocktail bartender. I got sacked from a job. I got home from my job. I rang my girlfriend. I said, I've just lost my job. And she said, I've got some more bad news, and dumped me.
Mm.
Boom. I was unemployed, living with my mum. I had an empty diary for the rest of my life. Go for a drink with a friend, but I had an empty diary. And I was sitting in my bedroom, and I just had this bolt hit me, absolutely proper hard in the head. You wanted to be a comedian since you were 9. What's stopping you doing it now? Hard, like proper lightning to my head. Boom, like that. So I got myself together, went to a comedy club, found out that anyone can do an open mic spot. You don't have to have an equity card. I don't know if you have the equivalent of an equity card, but an actor's license to be on television or performance. You just get up there and you do it. No rules, just you and a microphone and booking yourself in unpaid spots. It's called an open mic, right? And I did my first gig. It went well, thank God, because that gave me the confidence to do it again. I always wonder what would have happened if it went badly. But then again, my 5th gig went badly. My 6th gig went badly, and I still got up. But I got up knowing that 5 had gone well.
Mm.
If the first one had gone well, I don't know if I'd have got up again. I might have gone, oh, what was I thinking? But because 5 went well, nothing was stopping me.
Mm.
Because I had that, there's a Public Enemy line on the first album. He said, I never heard the booze. I never drank booze. I ignored the negativity.
Mm.
I stayed sober and I ignored the booing. And I never heard the booze. I just went, no, that's okay. Didn't happen. You learn from a bad gig, but didn't happen. I'm not letting that get to me. Didn't happen. Move on.
Yep.
And that was it.
And so that's what got you into it. And then what was the impetus to actually write the book?
So then AD telling me that about the walking book. Then I realized that Amazon's global, so the niche market still has an audience. Globally, there's a niche. A niche globally is a lot of people. And the other thing was, sadly, my dad died 2.5 years ago. So my New Year's resolution, 7 months after he died, was bang, write a book that day. It took me just under 8 months. I probably worked all but 2 of those 8 months every day, probably 3 to 5 hours a day.
And it just like you poured out of you all these years of just analyzing and everything.
Yeah, it's every thought I've ever had that's worth hearing.
Mm. Yeah,
There's no sequel.
And now on Amazon, it's got 248 reviews. How many? I'm sure you have like statistics. How many have actually been sold? I assume that they're a small percentage actually go on and leave reviews, right?
Oh yeah, I've sold about 7,500 copies.
Yeah, it's
Self-published.
amazing. And yeah, that's the other thing is, how do you self-publish? Like, what's that? Where did you go to learn how to do that? Or did you just YouTube and went after it?
No, I have a friend who's an author called Elaine Bateman. She's self-published as well. So she came round. I paid her train fare. I put her up. I took her out for lunch, but it was a favour. But she came round to my house and stayed. And she opened a KDP account, Kindle Direct Publishing. And I bought an app called Vellum, Vellum, which is incredible. It's free until you publish.
Mm.
So you can write your whole book on it. You can lay out dozens of choices of combinations, hundreds of thousands of combinations of layouts. You write your book, and you convert it as a PDF. But the genius is this: you don't pay the £250 until you convert it to a PDF. It's free until that moment.
Mm.
Isn't that a great selling point?
Yeah.
You write your book,
Full
and
thing's
when you
done.
want to
Yeah.
make your book, whole thing's done. And then it's a PDF. Then you upload it to KDP. You upload a cover for design as a PDF, and you print your book, and it's done. And here's the weirdest thing ever: it's print to order. One machine can print every single self-published book Amazon has.
That's so crazy.
One machine. I've seen it. It's like a magic trick. Different books come out of different sizes because there's one machine next to it that cuts paper. So one machine cuts the paper, puts it in, binds it, and your book comes out, and someone just does that, puts them on trolleys, and it gets it to the door of the person who ordered it. Isn't that amazing?
It's insane. Yeah, the idea of like back in the day, you'd had to buy 1,000 of them or something in bulk and have all this money. It's like, yeah, unreal. And now you have, so you
No
basically
way.
Kindle direct publishing, then you vellum to write it out and organize all your thoughts. And that's it. Like that, anyone can make a book.
7 people were involved in the entire making of my book. 7 people. And I used 2 people doing graphics, and I used 2 illustrators. So it could have been 5. It could have been 5 people. I just chose to use 2 illustrators. But 5 people and £1,200, including illustrations and vellum, which is 250. The proofreader was the most expensive part because that's going over every word for commas and missing
Wow. Yeah.
grammar. But that's it. 7 people. I'm just saying this because I want people to hear this and go, nothing stops. Self-publishing is the equivalent of being a YouTuber with regard to television, because YouTubers don't need a commission and self-publishers don't need a publisher. So self-publishing is the same as having a YouTube channel. You're doing it yourself. Nothing's stopping you. In the 80s and 90s, you had to have the people in power say, you are picked for my TV show. And now a phone is good enough to broadcast stuff.
Yeah. No,
It's only your talent combined with your laziness that's stopping you. If you're talented and lazy, it's shame on you, because talent is free. People used to boast like, "Oh, I'm talented, more talented than them, and they're doing really well. They're just hardworking." Good for them. Hard work is what you can boast about. Talent is free. You can't boast you're talented. You didn't do anything for your talent. You can be grateful you're talented, but talent is free. So when you get up night after night after night after night and you become a good comedian, funny people are born, comedians are made. When a singer's successful and they go, "Oh, they're not a good singer, but they're really successful." Well, they work pretty hard. No one did stadiums. No one sells stadiums without hard work. So when somebody isn't the best musician in the world, but they're successful, I applaud their drive. I applaud their ambition.
Yeah.
Unrewarded talent is global, and it will always happen. Of course, there are comedians way more successful than me that consider me a better comedian than them. I don't moan about it. I just accept that that's how it sometimes goes. There are musicians busking on the street who are better than people who are in the top 10. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
But what you can do is work hard.
What's been I completely agree with that. The idea of I'm coaching a basketball team this year, and high school.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
love.
I didn't know they painted.
What's that?
I didn't know they painted.
Yeah.
Is it they could reach the high bits?
That's right. Exactly. So it's funny that you said that, because I had for a while, I was like hesitating whether or not I should do coaching, because I love basketball. In fact, I'm tall, so I'm 6'6", 6'6", almost 200
Wow.
200 centimeters for the UK measuring. Wait, is the UK in imperial also?
Well, we do feet in inches.
You do.
We gave you feet in inches.
That's
Man.
right. So I'm 6'6". I actually have thought.
We care along. You're just big or little.
Yeah, what I've thought about doing this on my webcam. So because people always meet me in person and they're like, "Oh wow, you're taller than I thought." And so I figured if I do this, then people will.
Well, I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
I'm 5'7".
So people are like, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't get a big enough webcam to fit. I'm so tall." So I've debated whether or not that would decrease the comments when people meet me after the fact. But Yeah, so I'm coaching, and I hesitated doing it, but I ultimately was like, you know what? I'm running a business, but I'm very passionate about youth and just, inspiring and building up like the next generation. And I feel like it's a way to give back and also inspire kids to go for their dreams and whatnot. Because I got a lot from playing sports in high school, so I'm doing this. But it is completely absurd that someone that runs a tech company full time and has 4 kids is coaching high school basketball. But I'm excited about it because, similar to what you just said, the thing that I want to make sure that people know is like you can only control what you can control, and focus on like it's not about whether or not we win a championship. It's about whether or not we are falling in love with the process of becoming champions. That's the goal of the season, is like, can you fall in love with the process of the journey to a championship? And the championship in basketball or life or whatever, business, it's like the goal is just like, it's just a target to get you started in the right direction. But the thing that's more inspiring to me is, can I show up and love exerting myself and love conditioning, because it's hard, and that's why I do it, And the same thing, like I would say, writing a book. In order to write a book and enjoy writing a book, you can't focus on the end as much as I'm doing it like every day because I enjoy writing. I am a writer, Um,
Look,
so
I will say one thing on that. When I submitted the actual go button, the PDF online live, it is now a book. I had a sinking feeling because I didn't have a project anymore.
mm,
You think that'd be the best moment when my book is out, and it wasn't. I went, my baby's gone.
mm,
That just shows how much I enjoyed writing it because I didn't have a project anymore.
yeah,
I loved. That's the same thing, right?
yep,
I love the process,
yeah,
the champion dream.
yeah,
I'm going to write a book. These people are going to read this. People are going to read this. Of course, it was amazing when the reviews came in, but the actual moment of pressing it out, I was like, I got no book.
yeah.
So I love the journey. I love the journey. Every day I woke up and got my laptop out. Before I got out of bed, before I turned my phone on, I got my laptop out and I wrote in bed for up to 2 hours before I got out of bed.
Mm,
It was an absolute passion.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I like your champion thing. A lot of people don't enjoy the journey. I've spoken to very successful comedians who they love their life now with all the money and the big theaters and the stadiums, but they didn't enjoy the journey. They realized they spent 10 years being hungry and angry and it's like, well, that's 10 years of your life gone.
Mm,
Yes, the end product's great, but there's 10 years you didn't enjoy.
yeah. So yeah, find a way to
There's a big loss.
enjoy the grind and be present, like we were just talking about. So the what I would be curious, like any other inspiring nuggets or impactful stories that have happened since publishing this. People reaching out to you, like how is your life different now that you have this book? You're the same person, but what has this done for you or others?
Well, I do book master classes all over Europe, and I've done 3 in Singapore, 1 in Vietnam, but predominantly places like Helsinki, Utrecht, Lisbon. I've got coming up. I've got Dublin,
And when you say book
Rotterdam, Basel.
masterclasses, are you saying on comedy? Like it's this book's masterclass or
It's people who've read my book.
okay.
Sit around the table, 12 people, minute, keep it intimate, and we spend 6 hours with them asking questions about the book. They'll say, "Can you elaborate on a boom mic moment?" Something like that.
Mm,
And by the way, if we're going levels deep, 100 levels deep, boom mic moment's about 2 out of 100 levels deep.
yeah.
So as you're finding out, but the point is that the masterclasses, I'm going around the world, or certainly all of Europe, talking about my book, which is what I love doing. If I was on a car journey before I wrote the book, the talking book that AD said, that's me on car journeys talking about comedy. All I'm doing now is I'm getting paid to do it in a foreign country,
Mm,
which is
you get to
great.
travel,
I've
yeah.
done about 25 in England, 25 in Britain, and then all over Europe.
Mm,
So that's the biggest, and also ghostwriting work through the book. So before the book came out, I'd written for about 50 people. The book's been out a year. That number's got up to 90 now. So I've written for almost as many people in a year as I wrote in 20 years previous to that.
that's I'm assuming that with ghostwriting, and this is just based on how your book is structured, do people send you like, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking. can you help break this down, analyze it, make it better, make it punchier, whatever?
Yeah,
Is that's the type of stuff that you're doing as
exactly,
well?
exactly that.
Is
So
it
I worked
mostly
out
that,
a pattern.
or is there situations where people are like, give me new content, I don't care what it is?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
rare?
That happens too.
Okay.
It's rare because people like to have some involvement
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't want to go to the stage with just a load of other person stuff. So, but I work best with some clay. I like some clay on the table.
Yeah.
Write me a joke about headphones. Okay, I've got to think about headphones, but here's my joke about headphones. Reword it, change it, that bit there, change that to that, remove the boom mic moment, a topper, which is a punchline on top of a punchline. I was working with someone the other day. Collectively, we made 4 toppers. We had an idea, she had an idea, I added something, she added something, I added something, and suddenly there's 4 punchlines, which is like you're talking, set up, so you go bang, 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 4 in a row. And that came from a collaboration on Zoom. So what I'll do is I'll spend 4 hours of the 8 hours on my own, and then I'll do a screen share, and then we'll go over the document at their end, tweaking the stuff I've tweaked. So it's their work, my tweaks, and then collaboration on Zoom. It's taken me 20 years to come to that formula,
Model.
which is half on my own, half with them.
Yep.
In the model, yeah.
Love
It
that.
took a long time because 8 hours in a room with someone is too much. It's just too much. They go to the bathroom, you're like, I hope this is a poo. Please be a poo.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. Any other things that I always ask, things you came to this with that you're like, are on your mind, passionate about, that you always like to share?
Well, the most rewarding thing is I get emails every day from young comedians who tell me how they've changed a bit. The men in their 20s, for some reason, men in their 20s show me a before and after of their material after they've processed a word smuggler or seesaw. The little words I've created 29 phrases for things that don't have names.
Mm.
Boom mic moment's a perfect example. Someone can say, yeah, I think when you did that bit, you kind of reminded the audience you said it before. Why don't you say this? Boom mic moment, done. That's what language is, right? Language is being able to say several things in one word.
Mm.
That's what having a vocabulary is, right? A child has to say, I didn't like the way that man spoke to me. I think he spoke to me like I was a 5, but I'm 8. Well, he was patronizing. Done, right? So I've created 29 things to stop you having to say all these words. So when they write to me and they say, I created a word smuggle to create a seesaw, and this is what I've done, I go, it's wonderful. I'm making global comedy 0.5% better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
I just want to say one thing. Can I say one thing,
Yeah.
Chris?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I did my first gig was also I was terrified at 22 years old that I'd be on my deathbed wondering how my life had been if I'd done my first stand-up gig. I really was. Imagine that. Looking back and going, I really would have liked to train a basketball team. I really think I've got it to make people better basketball players. And I ended up as a window cleaner, and I hated my life. And I don't mean window cleaner is a bad job. It's a wonderful job. I'm saying if you didn't like being a window cleaner, but you wanted to do something else, you don't want to be a bitter old man or old woman.
Yeah.
You've got to, you get one life, right? And I'm so glad that 22-year-old me had that thought because I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
And by the way, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If you're doing what you love and you make a living, then you're successful. People say, I hope you make it. I've made it. I'm a comedian. Jerry Seinfeld is worth 3 times as much as Chris Rock. Does that mean Chris Rock hasn't made it?
Right. Or whatever he is.
Where's the line of made it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I haven't.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, something that I think about, and this is, I actually have a parent meeting tonight. This is one of the things I'm going to say, but it's like, there's a new school that I'm coaching at, and I'm using this as an analogy. It applies to basketball, to comedy, whatever. But there's a part of me, and I think this is, people feel this, where it's like, when's the right time to set the goal of, I want to win a championship, right? Like, when are you allowed to, right? And so I'm asking myself these questions. So it's like, we should say that this is the goal. And then there's the naysayer that's like, well, you guys are new, you're small, you don't have talent. Like, yeah, that's a stupid goal, And it's like, what? So then I went down that rabbit hole of like, okay, maybe it is a bad goal. Well, when is the right time to, like, when is, first of all, who says it's not a good goal? And when is that imaginary person going to say, okay, now you have permission to go for a championship? And the reality is, my
So
answer
my
to that is now is the best time. It's right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
If
yeah.
that's your goal, then start. If you want to be a rocket scientist, then sign up for rocket school. Like, take the next logical step, and that's where you're going. And it might take you 20 years or a year or 6 months or your whole life. But if you are committed or convinced that you want to go do something, I would say, first of all, whatever that thing is, go for it. But also, why not go for it at the highest level that you are capable of? But, and then the last thing is, not because of like I have to win a championship or I'm a failure, but use that highest level as the compass, and then fall in love with the process of just a journey that hopefully never ends. You just keep
That's
striving
nice.
towards it.
I'd say for a basketball player, it's the moment you hit 6'2".
Oh, that's when you're allowed to. Well, we don't. We have
I
one
I
six
think
two player, so yeah, no,
was that the short guy? Is that the short guy?
yeah, and I'm saying that's the tallest guy
Is
on the
he
team. Yeah,
Is 6'2"?
yeah. I'm
Oh, these
telling
are
you,
children.
yeah, the high school kids. They're 14
Oh, I
to
got you.
18 years old. So yeah, they're still growing.
So so when you said all that about when's the right time, my first thought was when you display some talent,
Mm,
because I think if you want to be a sports star and you haven't displayed any coordination at any point in your life, you might be facing the wrong direction. I think we all have. I was funny as a kid, right? I didn't gravitate towards biology.
mm,
I wasn't excited by biology. My niece studied biology. She talks about snails all day long. She has a passion for that. So I think if I go, I want to be a fine artist and I don't display any skills of fine art, you could be wasting your time putting your energy into something your body
mm.
doesn't actually your talent. So how about the moment someone says you're good at that? How about that?
Okay, I'm going to build on this. We'll go take it one step further. I would say I agree, love that, because you don't want to just do something because your coach said you're going to win a championship in this. It's like, well, I just was here because I wanted to hang out and have fun and meet some of my friends. Like, that's very possible, right?
Right, right.
I would say and this actually came from Sam Dema. The idea that I'm most excited about is, I feel, first of all, I think people know what they want to be when they grow up, so to speak, or I think that they have a dream that they're afraid to state. Just like you said, they're afraid of failure, so they pretend to not know what I want in life. Like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to study? And people are like, oh, I don't know. I believe that people actually do know deep down in their heart. They have some passion, a calling, like you're saying, whether it's comedy or being a doctor or whatever, and they're afraid to say it publicly because they don't know. Like, and especially when you're a kid, what I am most excited about is, let's say you're pretending, you're putting on a front right now that you don't know what you want to do. I think you do know, but I'll let you be in that place of I don't know what I want to do. And what I'm asking you is, I want to give you the gift of seeing what 90 days of intense focus towards an arbitrary goal looks like. And I want to show you what you're capable of in a 90-day period to become a better version of yourself. So I look at basketball in this one particular season as like, you're going to become somebody in the next 90 days that's more confident, that can prove to themselves that they can show up every day and put in work and get better and stronger and faster and all this stuff. And this may be something that you literally don't care about and you never touch a basketball again, but you're going to take something from this season and apply it to that thing that you are talented in, that you are passionate about. And this is going to like give you a boost into the next thing. And just remember that whoever you become in the pursuit of any goal, you get to take that person with you in pursuit of the next goal. So whenever you don't know what to do, just pick a scary goal or a hard thing, climb a mountain. Like, I'm gonna climb that mountain. Why? Because it's hard and it looks intimidating. Great. And then on your way up the mountain, you might realize there's 6 other things that you want to do, but you wouldn't have known that if you didn't take action towards a goal.
No, no, fair enough. Yeah, I like that. But you know of those kids in that class. there's one or two kids who've got that stare when you're talking because they're going, "Oh, I'm taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. I love every minute of it." Right?
Yep.
That connection. I don't. You thinking of a kid? Are you?
What's that?
Are you thinking of one kid? Are you thinking of a particular kid?
I've only met like half the team, so I'm going to meet the rest of them tonight. But I know exactly. Yes, in other scenarios, 100%. I know what you're talking about.
I did a book masterclass. I'm not going to say which one it was, but there was one guy who's just on the edge of his seat for 6 hours like that. It was like it's talking to him, like his brain, his IQ, his passion, just like that. And it was quite scary. It was like he's on coke or something. Just look, 6 hours like that, and he wasn't on coke because I didn't see him leave the room in the whole time. But the certain apart from the breaks, but the and I did one in another country. I'm not going to mention where, but I did a show, and all the people from the class came to my show the night before to watch. And just one kid, like 25-year-old, on the edge of his seat watching my show. That was just an intense passion. And a combination of their love for it, the talent that's connected, and the drive, and that little extra thing, that little extra motor inside you that's turning over quicker. They're the ones I'm excited about because they're going to live and breathe it. And sport, you've got to live and breathe it. You can't be half-assed about being the best athlete because there'll be someone training harder than you. Two people equal, one trains harder, they're going to do better. So, comedy, I was gigging every night. If I wasn't gigging, I was watching shows on my night off to see. And that's the goal. I got you. That was the 10:15 moment. I got you. So yeah, but the point is living and breathing it. The ones who live and breathe it, the ones that excite me because they've got the bug. It's the bug for anything.
Yeah, totally.
Final question.
Yeah. So 3 book recommendations.
Well, I have only read one novel in my whole life because I struggle to focus. You might go, you wrote a book, you can focus on that. I think my brain's set on transmit, not receive. I've read one novel in my life. It was called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
Are you sure you shouldn't have started that with best book I ever read? Curious Incident of the. I'm not as convinced if it's the only one.
Well, it's also the best book I've ever read.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I had my mind blown. So you might go, yeah, but there might be better books out there. Yes, but it was capable of blowing my mind.
Oh, that's awesome. Who's the author?
Mark Haddon.
Okay. And then have you had, how many business people, entrepreneurs have you heard reach out to you about your book, even though they're not comedians? Or what's like I guess this is a random question, but the most absurd occupation that someone's like, hey, I read this book and it's helped me be a better, plumber or whatever.
There was a salesman who drove 7 hours to come to a masterclass. And he said he saw so many parallels with selling and the book techniques. I mean, you even talked about public speaking, so that's not stand-up, it's just presenting. My mum made a list because when my mum sees a review on Amazon, so there was poets, salesmen, magicians. There was a really odd one. I'm sorry, it's gone. You never know who you're going to connect with.
Yeah.
When you write a book. And of course, the vast majority of stand-up comedians. But when a poet said to me, the chapter on flow and the first chapter about the seesaw, the rhythm of a punchline, has helped them write poetry, then they're a professional poet. They're a published poet. I was like, okay, well then, because stand-up's words. Yeah. And, hip-hop, I'm a massive hip-hop fan. My dream is for a rapper to say that they like the book. Because hip-hop's my second love.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, there are parallels. You were going to ask me my favorite film. I'm dying to tell you.
Yeah, it could be your favorite, but I like the movie suggestion that I might not have heard of before.
Have you seen Amélie? It's a French film.
I don't know. I'm just looking up the. Is it it's spelled weird? Amelie.
Lie, yeah. The American trailer said Amélie. You love mispronouncing words. Like they know it's called Amélie because they saw the film Amélie Poulain, all the way for Amélie. Then the American trailer went Amélie. It's like
is it 2001?
You have to chase it. 2001. It's called Iraq. You know it's called Iraq, not Iraq, don't you? Iraq. It's not called Iraq.
Iraq.
Americans
I'm
say
trying to think.
Iraq. Went to Iraq.
Is this does
But
this
yeah,
take
it's got.
place in Iraq?
It takes place in Paris in 1997.
Okay. I was going to say I didn't know Amelie was a Iraqi name, but it's not.
It's all I'm saying is the American. So I bought the special edition with extras and auditions and an incredible double disc, and it showed all trailers around the world, and it was Amelie, 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 and then America went Amelie, and I was like, I don't know why they changed it, but they did. It's not. I'm not assassinating your character, Christ.
Love it.
My
Well,
favorite film. It's a film about a woman who gives her free time to making lonely people happy,
that's awesome.
which is what I've just done.
Made me a lonely person happy. That's exactly every day. That's all Adam does.
Listen, you got 4 children. I think you're probably never lonely. It's probably your dream to be lonely for 10
Yeah.
years,
Can you
right?
make me lonely? Actually, that would be the inverse. Well, Adam, this was super fun. If someone wants to get in touch, what's your recommended way of doing that?
I'm on Instagram and on Twitter, or X, as Americans pronounce it. But Instagram's very easy. And if you have my book, my email address is in the afterthoughts page.
Awesome. Well, Adam, this was super fun. Thank you so much for taking the time, and hope the listeners, regardless of your occupation, got something out of it. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone at home, by the way. Thank you so much for your time.